the failed neoliberal model and support the elite ruling class that governs for the benefit of the multinationals in the north, allowing them to plunder their resources, destroy their environments and condemn their populations to misery and insecurity. But within this failed state, there are states of hope, islands of struggle, communities building alternatives, people sowing the seeds of change. In the highlands of Chiapas, in Oaxaca, Puebla, Ciudad Juarez and Guerrero, the cry of "Ya basta," enough, is inspiring people to rise up and make their voices heard. It's no coincidence that this atrocity we are reacting to today was perpetrated against these 43 students from Ayotzinapa, students from a poor rural town and a university with a strong tradition of activism for social justice. Activism that has been criminalized by the Mexican state. Earlier this week, President Peña Nieto accused those who were demonstrating against the abduction of the students and demanding their return alive of generating destabilization, social unrest, and undermining the national project, adding that the state had the legitimate right to use force if necessary. A chilling response to the demonstrators' justifiable rage, but nothing new for Mexico's struggling people. This massacre places itself in a long line of atrocities against students, peasants, workers, and indigenous people. From the student massacre at the Plaza de las Tres Culturas, Tlatelolco, in 1968, where hundreds of students were murdered and thousands arrested. The Corpus Christi student massacre in 1971 by Los Halcones, a US-trained criminal group within the armed forces used to subdue popular protest during the so-called Dirty War of the 1960s and 70s. Terrorist attacks on Mexico City's autonomous university in the 1990s. The massacre in the Zapatista community of Actial, and the crushing of popular protests in Oaxaca and San Salvador Atenco, where today's president, Enrique Peña Nieto, ordered the security forces to repress popular demonstrations when he was state governor. He used the same rhetoric then in 2006, justifying the state's legitimate right to use force to re-establish order. Many commentators have remarked on the absurdity of re-establishing an order that has never really existed in Mexico. The killing of 2 demonstrators, injuring of hundreds more, and the rape of 26 women by the police was the result of this re-establishment of order. So today we are here to show our respect and solidarity with the students of Mexico and their struggle for a just and equitable society. But tomorrow, that struggle will continue. So we cannot just return home and feel pleased with ourselves for participating here today. We must be prepared to continue supporting these struggles, because we are not just a part of the problem. In many respects, we are the problem. Our lifestyles, the governments we elect, the economic system we maintain and perpetuate, and the military alliances we support are all a part of this ongoing war. The war of the rich developed north against the poor south. The war of the capitalist elite against the working classes. The war to maintain privilege and inequality. The war of irresponsible consumerism against human survival, where Mexico's population has the unenviable fortune of being on the front line. So far from God, so near to the United States, as the saying goes. We've now lit 43 candles to honor these Mexican students, who though they themselves may never return, their struggle will. Let us now also have a minute's silence for the victims. And let us continue supporting the growing movement for change in Mexico, a movement that is daily gaining the strength to break that silence with a resounding, "Ya basta, enough." ¡Vivos los se llevaron! ¡Vivos los queremos! ¡Vivos se los llevaron! ¡Vivos los queremos! Tack.
My name is Iver Ørstavik and I work for the Rafta Foundation for Human Rights here in Bergen. I am a teacher, a father. I am a teacher and a father, and of course a former student. And I salute the 6 dead and the 43 students who have disappeared and whom we are here to commemorate today. I salute their families and friends and the millions rising in Mexico to protest the atrocity committed against them. The Rafta Foundation presents an award for human rights every year, and in 2010 this award was given to Bishop Raúl Vera from Coahuila, Mexico. Vera has been an exceptionally brave and versatile critic of human rights abuses of all kinds, and a consistent spokesman for the victims of those abuses for well over 20 years. He does not shy away from placing responsibility where it belongs, or from voicing opinions which are unpopular among the powerful, whether they be representatives of state, or the cartels, or authorities within the church that he belongs to. Vera has long stated that the terrible ongoing violence in Mexico should not be conceived as a struggle between a generally decent and legitimately functioning state and criminal organizations outside it. Most importantly, of course, the drug cartels. As Vera sees it, the problems of Mexico run much deeper. The recent history of Mexico abounds with episodes of mass violence perpetrated by the police, by the military, by militias, or by the cartels. The modern wave of mass murder in Mexico may perhaps be seen as starting with the Aguas Blancas massacre in the state of Guerrero in 1995, where 17 people were killed on their way to protest the arrest and disappearance of an activist, and to appeal for government investment in drinking water, schools, hospitals, and roads. Today, we commemorate the disturbing abduction and most probably murder of 43 students. In between this probable massacre and the first one I mentioned, many more have taken place and many mass graves have been discovered, most of them relating to the operation of the cartels. A prominent example being the 2010 massacre in San Fernando, Tamaulipas, where 72 migrants from Central and South America were murdered by former security forces turned into drug cartel, the infamous Zetas. Many of these atrocities seem to have involved representatives of the authorities one way or the other, ranging from turning a blind eye to the activities of the murderers, to actively assisting them, or to committing the murders themselves. The organized crime of Mexico rests mainly on the profits to be made from the drug trade and related grave crimes. But the state apparatus is not bravely battling the power of the drug cartels. The state exists in symbiosis with these cartels and has as such itself become in part a criminal organization. Billions of dollars flow from organized crime into the general economy of Mexico, and the criminals can buy the silence or complicity they need and make very, very credible threats to anyone who is not willing to be bought. This has been going on for such a long time that the underworld has engulfed a large number of important players and institutions in Mexican society. To defeat the underworld, which seems invincible, it is necessary to engage the four wheels of the car, Vera says. First, take away the power from drug traffickers and cartels. Second, confiscate their money. Third, capture the kingpins. And fourth, remove all politicians and officials who are supporting them in order to prosecute and imprison them. So, we are not merely confronting crime here. In the case of Aguas Blancas and Iguala, the motive for the massacres was not merely pecuniary but also political. In both cases, the victims were peaceful and politically engaged citizens, and they were most likely murdered for this reason, on the orders of representatives of local government. As Bishop Guerrero says, I don't believe this is organized crime. It is something else. This is a message sent to social strugglers. And the message is to keep quiet and to allow political authorities to continue their exploitation of the Mexican people, whether it takes place through sharing the spoils of organized crime or by other means. What should we learn from this brutal form of communication? Let us remember, while there are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people, more or less deeply involved in organized crime in Mexico, these are still a small portion of Mexican society. The people of Mexico does not want this. But it is extremely difficult for them to overcome the two-headed troll of organized crime and deeply corrupt government without assistance. They need our solidarity. They need the solidarity of citizens of all countries to mobilize the force necessary to convince both our own governments and businesses over which we might have some influence to shun cooperation with Mexican counterparts which do not provide a credible record of effective action against this beast. Thank you.